Hello there and welcome to this Astranti bite-sized video. Today we'll be looking at an F2 question for integrated reporting, more specifically on the topic of capitals, from our objective test 100 questions video. So, in this particular video, what you'll see is how to answer an F2 question that could feasibly come up on your exam concerning the application and use of capitals, which you will know from the integrated reporting framework. So without further ado, what I'm going to do is hand you over to my colleague James, who will walk you through how this question would be done and explain the mechanics of the question.
Question 3 of this debrief series sees us move on to, again, a new syllabus reference, which this time is define the 6 capitals. Now we have quite a long question, so to ensure I can get everything on screen, I'm just going to scroll down. And then let's go through the question line by line to start with. So I have a bit of a scenario-based question here based around a brewery company called Hops. And we're told that Hops has recently undertaken an initiative to distribute its various product ranges in 100% recycled glass bottles. Okay, so clearly an environmentally focused initiative here. The brewery has also recently announced that it plans to invest in the development of local land, allowing it to grow many of the cereal grains that it requires for its products locally, thereby reducing the supply of grain it imports from overseas suppliers. And based on all of this information, there are 2 true statements from the list of 5 answer statements below that we have to pick out. So just from glancing down these 5 answer options, we can see this term capital coming up straight away in the vast majority of our answer options. So as a very brief reminder in the context of integrated reporting, capitals are resources that a business utilizes to add value to its operations. And of course, as with any type of resources, these can be either improved on, increased or decreased as a result of the various different activities and operations that a business is engaged in. So clearly in this question, we're assessing how these 2 actions that Hops have recently undertaken will maybe increase or decrease the various capitals that it possesses. So the first of our statements is that Hops's policies will generate, i.e. improve, the natural capital of the business. So what do we mean by natural capital in the context of this question? Well, here we're looking at the business's impact on the environment in which it operates, okay? So we're thinking about things like pollution, for example. And we're also thinking about the business's use of things like renewable and non-renewable resources and energy sources. So if a business were to operate in an environmentally unfriendly manner, so if it were to be highly polluting as part of its operations, then it would be actively damaging its natural capital. However, in the context of this question, we're told that Hops has recently undertaken an initiative to use 100% recycled glass in the beer bottles that it distributes. So clearly here we see that the business is attempting to use maybe more renewable resources. It's attempting to reduce its impact on the environment in which it operates. And this will therefore improve, it will generate natural capital for the business. How might this policy add value to the business and its operations, I hear you ask? Well, here we're talking about things like the benefits it might provide to the business's reputation, for example, and amongst the eyes of its consumers who are increasingly interested in factors like sustainability in the modern day environment. Okay, so Hops could clearly use this policy as part of things like its marketing, as part of its branding to really show off its environmentally friendly credentials and make it more amenable to consumers. Okay, therefore adding value to its overall operations. So clearly we have our first correct answer option here. Answer option 2 states that Hops's policies will likely impact its human capital. Now, the important thing to remember when dealing with this particular question is that we are basing our judgment on the information provided. Now, nowhere in these 3 paragraphs worth of information that set up the scenario to this question do we have a direct reference to the business's staff. Human capital centers around the skills and experience and other factors like that of a business's staff, and we get no direct reference to either of the 2 ventures that Hops is engaged in, actively developing, actively improving the skills or the experience levels of the business's staff. Yes, indirectly, something like the development of a local production facility might lead to the development of skills amongst local staff, but we're talking further down the line here. We're not talking about a direct improvement to this particular capital as a result of these particular policies. So this lack of direct reference to human capital within the scenario means that answer option 2 is going to be incorrect. Answer option 3 states that Hobbes's policies will only create value for external stakeholders. Now, the first thing to say here is that obviously these various initiatives will provide value, will improve the business's standing in the eyes of a range of different external stakeholders, from customers all the way through to things like local groups, local community groups, who may be pleased to see local job prospects, for example, develop as a result of this shift in suppliers from hops. However, remember the point that we were talking about in relation to answer option 1 here. By instigating environmentally friendly policies, for example, hops will be benefiting, it will be developing its reputation. It will allow it to use factors like this in, say, its marketing and branding. And this will not only be beneficial for the company's wider external stakeholders, this will of course also be beneficial for the company in and of itself. If, for example, it sees better financial results as a result of this improved reputation, for example. So although we do see value created for external stakeholders, there is no way that we can say that Hobbes's policies will only create value for these parties, as quite clearly there are a range of internal stakeholders who will also benefit from these positive policies. Answer option 4 states that Hobbes's policies will likely damage its social capital. Now, social and relationship capital focuses around, for example, a business's relationships with its customers, and crucially in this particular example, with its suppliers. So in our second paragraph here, we know that Hobbes is going to be shifting the growing of cereal grains for its beer to local environments, and it's going to be sort of growing these itself from what we can see. And as a result of this, it's going to reduce the amount of grain that it purchases from its overseas suppliers. Okay, so as a result, we are going to likely see the business damage the relationship that it enjoys with these overseas suppliers, with these overseas parties, as quite simply, it will be undertaking less business from them, okay? And this is, of course, going to be damaging for these parties, especially, for example, if Hobbes is a large customer. So undoubtedly, the fact that Hobbes is shifting production or shifting the import of these grains from overseas suppliers to sort of local growing strategies means that the business will damage the relationships that it has currently developed with these overseas grain suppliers. Okay, so our second true statement. Finally, our last answer option states that Hobbes's policies will create more financial capital for the company as its profit margins will increase as a result of these ventures. Now, as we've talked about a few times, yes, the business may enjoy things like reputational sort of upgrades. Its reputation may improve as a result of these policies, and this may indirectly then create more financial capital. It may indirectly benefit the business financially. However, that does not necessarily mean that answer option 5 here is correct. Based on the information provided in this question, we have no certainty. We don't know for certain that these policies will actually benefit the company financially. And specifically here, we don't specifically know that these policies will increase the business's profit margins. It may be, for example, that glass bottles made from recycled glass are more expensive to produce for the business, and this may impact things like its gross or operating profit margins. And so despite the wider financial benefits that the business may eventually gain from these ventures, there is no way for certain that we can say that both its financial capital will increase and also its profit margins will improve. Okay, so quite clearly we have another incorrect answer here. And this just confirms to us that it is answers 1 and 4 which are the correct answers in the context of this question, and therefore that it is answer option D that is the final answer to this question.
Well, I hoped you enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more like this, including mocks, revision notes, and even question tutorials, you can head on over to the Astranti website, where we offer a full course that gives you access to this wide variety of materials, all in order to help you pass your exam. And if you'd like to stay in contact with us and see more posts like this, you can also subscribe to our social media channels, which include Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube.